I'm watching a period of very active weather as we move into the middle portion of this month. And the first time frame I want to focus in on is next weekend. We can have a storm system that could produce all kinds of weather, severe storms, winter weather on the cold side. So we're here to try to figure out all the details that we have as of right now. And of course, we'll get more and more detail the closer we work to this time frame of interest. After that, we'll go over today's weather and then we'll wrap it up. My name is Mitch. Good Thursday morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So let's go over the latest Euro first from overnight, and we're going to start off with the central U.S., and then we'll speak on the eastern U.S. next, and we'll kind of make our way pretty quickly through all this, but we'll go over a few model runs, and we're going to start off all these model runs with a week from today. So next Thursday morning, February the 12th. You can see it up here and you can see it over here also. So I do think we're going to have a storm system. I don't think this is the main one that I'm specifically watching, but I do think we'll have some weather up here in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region. A lot of model guidance shows this, and this could be a warmer storm system, some snow up here in the upper Midwest, maybe a little bit of freezing rain with a low pressure cutting across the country, bringing a lot of warm air at the surface and aloft. But as we move forward, we get to that time frame I'm watching next weekend. So this is next Friday morning, the 13th. We have a lot of moisture to the south. So the storm track kind of shifts further to the south here. A little bit more cold air working into this moisture. It's showing a little bit of snow into the panhandle of Texas, a little bit of some rain snow action here in Oklahoma, and low pressure just riding further south, but it eventually cuts on the Euro, and it cuts pretty dramatically too. It's riding up the Mississippi Delta region. It's snowy on the northern side, but on the southern side, we have a warm sector building up and maybe some severe weather based off this run of the Euro materializing across the deep south. Now, don't immediately assume we're going to get severe weather across the deep south next Friday, because some model runs show a more suppressed look, which means we kind of push the severe weather ingredients a little bit further to the south. But let's keep this moving here. And as we get into next Friday evening, you can see we got a quick hitting snowstorm across areas of the Midwest and a whole lot of rain across the mid-south into the deep south with thunderstorms. And this moves away with backside snow across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Now I want to stop it right there. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and look at anything past this time frame, but the weather could remain active with more storm systems behind this. Now, if we look at the GFS, same time frame, about a week from today, it doesn't really show that storm system the Euro does for the upper Midwest. So there's some timing differences there. But as we move forward, it does show a lot of moisture, just like the Euro, bubbling up across the southern tier of the country, with just enough cold air to produce some heavy wet snow across the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, and just a whole lot of rain everywhere else further to the east. And as we move forward, it does have a low pressure cutting, just like the Euro, but not as dramatic from the southwest to the northeast. So I would imagine on this run of the GFS, the severe weather part of this won't be as intense. But we're just looking at kind of run-to-run model runs here. So we're going to have a lot of changes with this. But on the northern side, it does show snow, just like the Euro, kind of stretching from northeast Oklahoma through areas of the Midwest. But kind of the snowy axis of this isn't as large as the Euro, at least in the central U.S. But as we're moving into like next Friday night to Saturday morning, does have some heavy wet snow from St. Louis almost to Indianapolis, and then this moves off your screen. So it's kind of similar, right? Now, if we look at the Canadian, because I know the Canadian isn't the best model in the world, but I think it did fantastic with this system this past weekend with locking in and really staying locked in. But same thing, a week from today, it does show a storm system, timing differences here, but shows snow flying around across the upper Midwest. And then here's that storm. It's further to the south, some snow all the way up into Nebraska, eastern areas of Colorado, and it does show a rain-snow mix kind of Friday across northern areas of Arkansas, southern sections of Missouri, and it's just more flattened out across the central portion of the country with this storm. So, I mean, it's even flatter than the GFS. So you kind of go Euro, which cuts dramatically. GFS doesn't cut as much with the low. And Canadian kind of keeps this almost more zonal. And it's just a big rain event across the deep south. Not much in the way of any thunderstorms. With some snow in Kentucky that you see there, and then it actually turned into an all-out snowstorm across Kentucky, and we'll have you a closer look at that here in a second. So that's the central U.S. That's the storm we're watching. I really think this is going to produce some wild weather, in my opinion, but we'll work out the details the closer we get. Now, the eastern U.S., same storm system. First off, there's that first one about a week from today, going across areas of the country, but it's mainly just some showers to the south. Rain to the south is too warm, and to the north, there's just enough cold air to bring a winter weather event across the Great Lakes region, southeast Canada here. And then getting into the northeast next Thursday does bring a solid winter storm, but it's kind of just winter weather going to rain for certain areas. And then we watch the storm system of interest behind this. This is the one I'm watching. The Euro likes this thing just cutting right through the mid-south. This is next Friday evening. Has a snowstorm on the cold side, and this is just a lot of rain. Now to the south right here, this is thunderstorms. Weather Bell doesn't really reflect thunderstorms very well, so I'm going to show you another representation of this here in a second. But it has this just cutting right across the mid-south, the Ohio Valley, so kind of has a corridor of freezing rain in Ohio, winter weather across the Midwest here. And if this happens, this will be a powerful storm system, but it'll be more, I really think severe weather could take the storyline with this if the Euro was to be what ends up happening here. But this is a winter storm, though, still across areas of the Midwest. So it would have a severe side and a winter weather side, and then cold air would wrap in behind it, and it would finish it off around next Saturday with a lot of northwest flow getting all the way down to the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina. And this is just a big rain bomb across the northeast with some wraparound flow. So that's the Euro, right? Now, what about a closer look at the Euro? Because if the Euro does happen, we're going to get some severe weather. We're going to get our first, I would say, severe weather event of the season of 2026, at least the first somewhat significant one. And the reason being is if we start off next Friday morning on the Euro, you have a low cutting across, and this would be a line of strong to severe thunderstorms going across Mississippi, Alabama, low pressure way up here. And anytime you got a low pressure cutting this far to the north, this is going to bring overlapping ingredients for severe weather. So you'll have a warm sector, moist sector, and you'll have a lot of kinematics, wind energy, going over that moist and warm sector. Now, I'm a little rusty talking about severe weather, guys, so don't pick on me a little bit. We'll have to kind of get into that form the closer we get to spring. But you can look at this and tell, hey, this is a line of thunderstorms, maybe semi-discrete supercells, but we're still pretty far out. And there's really some differences with this storm system, and we're going to go over that here in a second. These thunderstorms continue to cruise into the southeast, and we could have just some severe weather going right to snow, across areas of the southern Alps. But, you look at the moist air with this. This is next Friday. You can see these are dew points. You get dew points into the 60s and early to mid-February, and this is going to get the job done for severe weather. And you can see in response to the low pressure cutting across the mid-south, getting into the Ohio Valley, this is going to bring a moist sector up across the deep south. And if you do have a wind field riding over that, and this is just a low-level jet, then you are certainly going to get some severe weather. And that's a rampant low-level jet here next Friday evening based off just one run of the Euro, by the way. This is like a 50, 60 knot low-level jet, which would get the job done going right over a pretty solid moist sector for February standards across the deep south. But the GFS, not as crazy about the severe weather element of this storm system. And here it is. We start off a week from today, got a system across the northeast, and then here comes the storm system of my interest. Coming up through here, it's a big area of moisture, just rain across most of the deep south, mid-south. A scenario like this could still bring severe weather. I mean, low pressure still cutting, so getting into Friday and a Saturday could still have some thunderstorms down the south. But snow breaking out across the northern fringe of this moisture. It looks like that classic comma head. But then the low pressure kind of gets bogged down. Then you got this upper level low here. This is bringing snow across areas in the Midwest next Friday into next Saturday morning. And then we got heavy winter precipitation breaking out across PA and the favored regions, mountainous regions of Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia. And it actually flattens out and turns into a winter weather event up into southern New England. And we got low pressure cutting across the Carolinas next Friday. And then we kind of have this comma head of moisture with some snow showers, the cold air kind of wrapping in behind this low all the way down into northern sections of Alabama, middle Tennessee. And this is next Saturday. And then we kind of have a blossoming of moisture basically sometime next weekend on the GFS. And the leftover of this moisture, which is a lot of leftovers, turns into a winter storm across the Northeast. So it looks like a long duration event. Now, what does the Canadian show? Same thing. The Canadian favors more so the Euro with a storm system ahead of this. Okay, but I mean, this is a low cutting all the way up into the Great Lakes region. I think this will be just a warmer system. And then here comes the storm of interest, even more flattened out compared to the GFS and definitely to the Euro. Just a lot of rain for the deep south next Friday, and then it encounters some cold air, and it actually has a snow event as far south as Tennessee, and a snowstorm breaking out across the Midwest, West Virginia, with just rain across the southeast. And I don't think there would be much severe weather with this kind of look here. 998 cutting across Georgia. That's a further south low pressure, so it wouldn't kind of pull up as much severe weather ingredients that could overlap one another. But this is just a solid winter storm from, I mean, even areas of Tennessee through Kentucky, West Virginia, and areas of the mid-Atlantic. And then it will try to ride up the coastline, but we can only go 240 hours out on the Canadian. But I mean, it has snow wrapping all the way back around this into areas of Middle Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, and we got snow across the Central Apps here, and this is as far out as we can go. But now, if you do look at the Euro AI, and I think we're going to have some back and forth with this storm system, the Euro AI from overnight, and this is starting off, where is it starting off? This is next Friday morning. Blue as snow, and just look at the orange as, just a wintry mix, okay? No point in getting crazy detailed on this. Now, it has that storm system too, but the pieces of it fly in. It doesn't really get going in the middle of the country. It kind of flies in from the north, and it kind of meets some energy in the east. Therefore, you don't have a lot of, it's just a colder look. Let's leave it at that for now. But the southeast all of a sudden gets another winter storm, and all the way down to Columbia. It's not a forecast, but it actually brings accumulating snow through the Carolinas once again. And that's the same storm system we just broke down with all the other model runs. So that's a different look here, and actually tries to ride up the coast a little bit. And I mean, that's next weekend. So I mean, that's a different scenario. Now, I do think that we have, let's see, I think that we have the latest Euro AI, because that's the OOZ. We probably have the 06Z now. We do. So let's see if it shows something similar from the, excuse me, losing my voice, the overnight run. Now let's just fast forward to this time frame. I always like to build it up. And it already looks colder. I mean, for example, like a week from today, the Euro AI is already just colder. All right, with the even the like 1 week out. But then we get to that storm system. Where is it? And yeah, I mean, it's more amped up on this run. So it doesn't show that same scenario. Now, if you look at temperatures here, yeah, it does show a cold air damming kind of setup, but I mean, it's not cold enough, not even close enough. So the Euro AI kind of follows all the other model runs and doesn't have kind of that wintry look that its old version does. But I would watch this time frame, and before we kind of dive into all the rest of this stuff, I would say, I was talking to my buddy here. He runs the Rain Cold YouTube channel. His name's Jason, and me and him were talking a little bit yesterday on the phone, and it just feels like we've shifted back to the winters of past, where it seems like, you know, we just had a bad stretch of luck, I guess you could say, especially across the southeast for winter weather. But it just seems like it wants to winter weather now. And I would just watch this storm system over the next few days and see if it trends colder. Watch the block up top, because I don't know if I 100% agree that these low pressures are just going to cut like this. But it's something to watch. One thing we know is that this period is going to be active. This is just lower pressure, higher pressure. And as we get about a week from today, you're going to see a lot of blue dominate the entire lower 48, which means we're going to have low pressure. We're going to have storm systems, probably after storm system. Now, the Climate Prediction Center favors a good chunk of the lower 48 to be warmer than average. So I have a feeling we're not going to get major winter storms out of this necessarily, but we could. We just got to continue to watch this. You know, February, we typically become less dry, and we start to ramp up the jet a little bit more as we near the ending of winter. But I mean, that's a solid look for a strong storm system around the mid-month time frame after the time frame I just mentioned, which is next weekend, because this is after next weekend. So I would watch a little bit after next weekend too, like getting closer to, you know, day day 10 to day 14, something like that. That shows a pretty strong signal for a storm system cutting across the country. So, it kind of backs up the Climate Prediction Center, the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, sort of backs up what we've been talking about this entire video and over the last day or two. And everywhere that is in the green, if you live in the green, they're leaning towards the chance at above average chances of precipitation. So they're thinking it's going to be wetter or either wintry than normal. In this case, I really think, I don't know if there's going to be any huge winter storms further to the south, but we need to watch if things trend colder. And the reason I say that is because if you do look at this, most of the country looks to be above average as far as temperatures. At least they're leaning towards a higher chance at that rather than a higher chance of below average temperatures or average temperatures. So I could see this changing. For example, if you go back and you look a few days ago, kind of last week, they were thinking that the 14th to the 27th was going to be around average temperatures across the middle of the country and was leaning towards below average temperatures across the eastern sections of the country. Now it's totally flipped. We can even look at this too. Let's look at you look at the February temperature outlook, and they're thinking that when it's all said and done and February's over, that the eastern sections of the country is going to average out at below average temperatures. I don't know about that anymore. There's been a lot of changes over the last few days, just since January 31st, which was 6 days ago, 5-6 days ago. So, this is going to bring a period of active weather. We're going to get a lot of moisture, so we need the rain. And I think a lot of these areas, it could just be rain. For example, it's between now and the next 15 days off the Euro Ensemble. And, obviously you guys know by now. If you don't, I'll tell you. This averages 51 members together and creates a mean or an average. And hey, it's a pretty wet look across the eastern U.S. Central U.S., not as wet, but the eastern half of the lower 48 is certainly a wet look with multiple inches of precipitation, whether it's winter weather or just good old-fashioned rain. As far as winter weather off the Euro Ensemble, it just looks like, for the most part, the northern section of the country is gonna, have the best shot at winter weather. There's no strong signal of winter weather for the south with this look, but things can change pretty quick, and we will watch things. But right now, like I said, I'm not seeing any strong signal. As far as today's weather, we have a strong clipper diving in. This is giving you guys some snow up here across the Great Lakes regions and surrounding areas. And then we got this little system ongoing right now. We got reports of snow across areas of the Western Carolinas, a wintry mix going on across areas of North Carolina. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if some moisture gets going here across central areas of South Carolina too. We could get some flurries as far south, I think, as Augusta, Columbia, Florence today. Maybe eventually into Myrtle Beach later on this evening. Don't let this catch you by surprise. But as far as watches, warnings, and advisories, we do have winter storm watches now up for areas of the mountainous regions of PA, Western Maryland, West Virginia, for a pretty aggressive clipper that's going to dive down into this region. And then we got winter weather advisories continuing up for North Carolina, areas of VA. As far as the southeast today, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but I really do think we could get some flurries all the way into Columbia, maybe even Atlanta. And I just think it's going to be a cold day across the Carolinas. I think there's going to be some moisture lingering around, and some of this could be in the form of maybe some sleet pellets or maybe some flurries. And some areas will just might hang around freezing to slightly below freezing a day, and you might just get some freezing drizzle. But this system really gets going off the coast. And the crazy thing is, guys, a lot of people haven't mentioned this, but this could have been another winter storm for the Carolinas and the southeast. The reason it wasn't is because the trough axis and the ridge axis were not aligned correctly. If this energy could have dug in a little bit further to the west, we could have had this was very close, in my opinion, to a very similar setup that we had this past weekend. In fact, if you look at the radar right now, the moisture is kind of moving just like the snow moved last Saturday. But everything was just positioned too far to the east. So, a little tidbit of information there. But the northeast today, quiet. I do think we could get some snow showers. We'll try to drift into the western areas of the northeast later on tonight. And then we wake up tomorrow morning and we have a pretty aggressive clipper starting to dive in and across the Ohio Valley. So this is getting into kind of late morning tomorrow, midday. I do think we're going to have some pretty heavy snow that's going to blast through areas of Indiana, Ohio, getting into northern areas in Kentucky, and eventually move all the way into West Virginia, into areas of Virginia. And I think this could be a solid burst of snow, guys, tomorrow. Definitely a winter wonderland type look down here. But we're going to skip the south central U.S. There's nothing going on today. I mean, absolutely nothing. But that same energy will dive through, it's diving through the Great Lakes region right now. This brings some light to moderate snow across areas, and then we're going to have the reinforcing clipper. This thing's going to literally knife through later on tonight. I'm telling you, this thing's going to produce some heavy snow. So you might go to bed, tonight across Wisconsin and wake up with a fresh coating of a few inches of snow. And I think this will mainly miss Chicago. I mean, you can get some snow, but I think that the majority of this clipper will kind of move east of Chicago and roll over the southern sections of Lake Michigan. But man, this is going to move right into northern Indiana, Ohio tomorrow morning. It's probably going to clip Detroit, and this will produce probably, I think, inch per hour rates for a few hours across regions as we're getting into tomorrow. But how much snow could you get between now and the next 24 hours? The UP of Michigan, just a few to several inches. Nothing too crazy for you guys. The standards, Wisconsin, and a couple inches here in the northern and northeast and eastern areas of the state. Milwaukee, maybe an inch. Green Bay, inch or two. And then we look at lower Michigan, a few inches of snow. Detroit, maybe 2.5 inches between both systems. So just a fresh coating of snow on top of any other snow you still have on the ground. And then we look at Indiana, Illinois, and it's going to be a tricky forecast for Chicago to Indianapolis because I do think the axis of snow will move kind of east of you guys. But any kind of shift with this clipper, for example, if it dives in a little bit further to the west, then you guys could get a little bit more of accumulating snow in Indianapolis, for example, in Chicago. And then we take a look at Ohio. And a few inches of snow on the way. This will fall pretty fast and furious too. And then I will take a look at West Virginia, and I should have done this in one of the other time frames here. But this is West Virginia. Charleston, an inch and a half of snow. We could get over a half a foot in certain areas in the highlands of West Virginia. But Morgantown, 2.5 inches. Pittsburgh, 2 inches. So just a fresh coating of snow on the way for these regions. And then the western U.S., it's just quiet. It's quiet and warm. Very warm. Maybe some showers trying to bubble up across southern Cal, but I mean, it's very warm. I'll show you that here in a second. The eastern U.S. is cold. Very chilly day everywhere across the eastern U.S. Western U.S., look at this. I mean, we got 70s getting all the way up into Canada. I mean, it's going to hit 70 degrees somewhere in Montana today. I wish that this was happening in my house because I didn't tell you guys, my heat went out. My heat went out sometime, not last night, but the night before last. And I know that because I have a smart thermostat and it tells me how long my unit runs. And I noticed when we got home from church last night, it was very cold in our house. I noticed it right off the dot. My girls did not, but I can pick up on that kind of stuff. I guess that's just being a man, whatever. But I was like, yeah, something ain't right. It's too cold in here. And sure enough, we have our thermostat set at 67, and the temperature was at 61, and that thing was still running, so it's just blowing air. So got somebody coming out later on today to try to see what's going on. We've had a lot of issues with our unit, and luckily we haven't had to fork out a lot of money because I was smart back in the day and got a 10-year warranty on it. So I haven't had to pay for any of these huge repairs, but man, it just got fixed. Yeah, it just got fixed last summer for something similar where it was just blowing air. So anyways, it is what it is. That's life. But it's pretty chilly in our house right now. It hasn't gotten too cold, but it's only going to get into the low 40s today. So it's going to get quite cold in our house. So anyways, yeah, that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll continue to try to figure everything out. I do got a quick Bible devotion for you guys. And we're in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 16 through 18. It says, rejoice always, pray constantly, give thanks in everything, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So rejoice always, pray constantly, give thanks in everything, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So, we pray on this channel. We all pray for one another, and I mean, that's a way to glorify God. And I'm very blessed and lucky on this channel. I have a lot of prayer warriors where if I miss a prayer request, somebody else is praying over it, and it's awesome. And one thing I tell you guys, it is tough to not be ungrateful. I found myself Saturday pouting like a child, to be honest with you. And I always like to kind of relate things. They kind of relate to you guys because we all have these kind of weak moments, right? Where I had a very weak moment Saturday, and I told you guys a little bit about it, but I didn't really get too deep into it. But kind of going back and reflecting on how I felt, it was very. I mean, I internally, it was an internal thing. I acted like a child. Over snow, but it's my passion, it's my love. But I remember thinking, in a way, I couldn't find the joy in just the snow falling Saturday in my neck of the woods. I live here in Columbia, so if you're new, we had a snowstorm here in the Carolinas, and my area here in Columbia underachieved significantly. And I think I went into it just so high that, hey, we're going to get a half a foot of snow, and then I kind of set myself up to kind of get the rug pulled if it wasn't going to work out, and that's exactly what happened. But I found myself thinking at the end of the day Saturday, even into Sunday, I was like, why couldn't this have worked out? And I kind of started to kind of go back to that victim mentality a little bit and it was over snow. It was over snow, and after a couple days went by, and I've been reflecting throughout this work week. Each day I get further and further away from Saturday, I'm thinking, man, why did you let the joy get snatched from you like that Saturday? And it did. I let the fact that the event wasn't really working out just kind of snatched the joy away from me. So I should have just been thankful that it snowed. And, I found myself not thinking like that. So I say that to you guys, to say this, I get it. I'm human. I have these weak moments too. I try to fight it more internally. I try to pray about it, but that's kind of an example of not just rejoicing when something really ain't really working out. And that's something that's very small. I mean, very insignificant in the grand scheme of things. You got people out there going through so much worse things. And now right here, my heat's out in my house and I could be stressing out, worried, things like that. But, I'm kind of in a better mindset and I'm like, well, it'll work out. It'll be all right. So, I hope that makes sense. Just want to kind of give you guys a little backstory on that. But I actually seeked out that specifically because of the way I felt Saturday about that event. But, anyways, that's all I got. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for everything. And we'll continue to try to figure out this active period of weather coming up. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. And we'll see you again soon.